ask you. If I stand here, will you see me?
Maybe not. But yeah, go ahead.
They got a computer, the one you're building, it has Wi-Fi connected. The Wi-Fi card.
Yes. Also, why can't you just use Ethernet?
You could.
Yeah.
But how do you get it?
It's got a Wi-Fi
Because
card
I
here.
thought you're gonna install Windows. Or how do you install Windows? You have.
USB drive.
Okay, alright, so you don't need Wi-Fi.
Made this already. Should I teach how to make it?
Maybe another next step.
Is the channel on?
Hang on. Okay. Let's get building. So first, let's talk about the parts we have here. I have the motherboard, the processor, the SSD, which is the storage unit, storage drive, the RAM, Wi-Fi card, fans, CPU heatsink, power supply. What is all this? What do they do? So let's talk about the processor first. Look at that as the brains of your computer, all right? It does all the thinking. It pulls data from the hard drive, which we'll talk about later, the memory, the motherboard, sends it through the motherboard to other parts of the computer. This is what does all the thinking. Here it is. And on top of that, we have the hard drive, also known as the SSD in this case. It's an M.2 form factor, so it's the newest kind. Everyone uses it in their builds because they are much faster than a mechanical hard drive, which has to rotate up to speed, and then it can retrieve data from inside it. So these are also much smaller. They fit on the motherboard instead of somewhere else in the case, which is right here. Yeah, so that stores your data. In this case, this is 256 gigabytes. It's a Samsung SSD. And I forgot to talk about this, our processor. What are the specs of it? It is a dual-core, 4-thread AMD Athlon CPU. It's not those older Athlons that uses, just an older board. This is a new one, all right? It was released a couple years ago, I believe, and uses the AMD A320M chipset and AM4 socket. So that's pretty new. It goes with the AMD Ryzen processors, which are also quite new, only a couple years old. Or a few years old. I can't remember. Was it 2017 or 28? I'll do some research, I guess. Next, what's closest to that? The RAM. All right, that is after it pulls data from the hard drive, we'll just refer to it as a hard drive. It will go into the RAM, which is really quick access for the CPU. Okay? CPU will access the RAM as you open the file. Okay? It reads that. And next to that, we have our CPU cooler, also known as a heatsink. That draws heat from the CPU because it creates a lot of heat, especially a higher end CPU. Those create even more heat as I learned it in science class, a byproduct, I believe, of using electricity. Guess it's not 100% efficient, huh? All right, so that will pull heat from it. There's also a fan on top of it that will help in the process. There are such things as passive heat sinks, which means there are no fans on it. So these are generally less efficient, I'd say. Next, we also have fans, all right? These are 80 millimeters. This is 120 millimeters. These also help cool down other components inside our case, which is right here, right there. Pulls air through the front and pushes it out the back. That's what we normally do when I build computers. Next to that, we have our motherboard. This is like pretty much the back of the computer. It holds everything together, connects everything, and yeah, you basically need a motherboard when you're building one, along with all these parts. As I told you, this is a pretty simple computer. It's just everything it needs to run. Well, at least run properly. Now you might be wondering, what's this? What's this little syringe? It's actually thermal paste. This helps the connectivity of heat dissipation from the CPU to the heatsink, because there are little. If you feel it's textured. Okay, that means it's not a completely smooth surface. So this kind of fills in the gaps between the CPU and the heatsink. So it has better efficiency when dissipating heat. Okay. Next up, what's this? It's called the I/O shield. This is what goes in the back of the case and prevents dust and stuff from going in the motherboard from behind the case. So it basically goes like this. It covers up. This is your I/O, input outputs. Okay. It goes like that, if you can see that. Yeah, it goes right over those ports. Also, what's this? It's our back plate for the CPU. This will go behind the motherboard, and this is what the CPU cooler will screw onto and hold together like a sandwich, all right? It's sandwiching the motherboard and CPU together. Next up, we have our power supply. It supplies power, converts 120 volts AC into the kind of power the motherboard uses, which I believe is DC. Basically that. The case is it's all there, you know. It holds everything together and protects the components, right? Cases come in many form factors. This one's a micro ATX form factor. So it's a mini desktop, mini tower. Not a mid tower, that's a little bigger. So yeah, it's a small computer compared to other gaming builds. Next up, why is a USB drive here? So I made this to install Windows. It's quite easy. You gotta download the tool on Microsoft.com. Just search up download Windows 10, and it's a tool supplied by Microsoft that you can use to create one of these. If you bought a license key on, let's say, Amazon or somewhere, or Microsoft site, wherever you bought your license key, if you have one, you'll want to download the tool from Microsoft.com and make a USB. Just follow the instructions on screen. It's quite easy. Now, last thing on the table I haven't talked about, our Wi-Fi card. That basically connects to one of these ports on the motherboard right here to, well, get a Wi-Fi signal so you can download stuff and, you know, browse the web. And you can also use Ethernet if you feel you should, or if you don't have Wi-Fi. Now, I think I've gone over all the components. Oh yeah, we have some screws. We'll need those. Now let's get building. Hang on. Oh, there's a question. Let me answer that one. I'm still here. On average, how much would a decent PC cost to build? Okay, so this is actually a very, very basic PC. It has not much power. It can't do much gaming. I focus on gaming computer when I build it, so we're going to talk about gaming. This is a decent work computer. You can do most normal everyday tasks with it. But for a gaming computer, you're looking at around 1,100 something. If we're going with a Ryzen 5, which is a decent AMD processor, AMD Ryzen 5 3600X, all right? And an AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT, that is a pretty decent graphics card. It can do 4K gaming, I believe. But you could upgrade to an NVIDIA RTX if, you know, you just need more power, right? You also want like 32 gigs of RAM to make it work well. They can work together very well. Yeah, I might create a few PC part picker lists. I recommend that website when you're designing your first computer or any computer you're building. I would recommend that. They list compatible parts and all the parts you'll need, that kind of thing. So I might make a few lists and leave them in the description of this video after they are edited. Okay, that is a decent computer I just listed out for you. Thank you for your question. Now, time to get building. Let's start with the motherboard. We're going to start with that and this backplate, and the CPU, and the thermal paste, and the heatsink. We'll just need those few parts. Oh yeah, the SSD, that too. Now let me clear. Oh yeah, one more thing before we get started with this. Remember to ground yourself. Okay, that means discharge the electrostatic energy from yourself. Here's how I do it. I have a power supply that's plugged into the wall, and remember this, turn it off, okay? Make sure the switch is flipped off. Now, remember, the power supply is connected to ground, but no power is coming into it. So here's what I do. I just touch the case of the power supply so that you won't damage your components. I'll put that on the floor for now because we won't be using it until a bit later. All right, let's move this forward, and I will adjust the camera angle. That's better. So first thing you'll want to do, just for me to make this simple, we're going to install the SSD, the hard drive, right here. This is an M.2 2280 M key. The key is right here. An M key is just that. There's one notch. An M plus B key, I believe, has 2 notches. And you'll have to know the difference because some are SATA based, some are PCIe based. This one's a PCIe based one. And you have to check compatibility with the motherboard. So here it is. This is the M.2 drive slot where my hand is. And now you'll want to remove the screw that's right here. Now take the drive, fit it in there. Don't want to give too much pressure, just till it's there. It will stick up, so you'll have to gently press it down while the screw is still on the screwdriver. Now tighten it down, and it's ready. Next, you'll want to have your motherboard back plate, your CPU bracket, basically, and fit it to the 4 holes behind the motherboard. And then lay it down. There it is. Next up, you'll want your CPU. Here it is. Be very careful with this, as it has a lot of gold pins on the back that you do not want to break or bend. Now there's even a cutout here where you can hold it by the side. Do not hold it by don't touch the top of it, don't touch the bottom of it, just hold it by the sides so you'll keep it safe. Now, you'll lift up the retention bar right here, pull it back, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up. There's a small gold triangle right there on the CPU. You'll want to line it up with the little triangle that's on the motherboard. In the case, it is on the top left corner. That is how you fit it in correctly. Give it a little wiggle, just make sure it's there. Don't be aggressive with it. And now slowly push down that retention bar till it locks in place. You can hold on to this in case you ever have to disassemble your computer. Next, here's the little bit of a tricky bit. You'll want to put a good amount of thermal paste there, just like the size of a grain of rice, just a little bit like that, okay? Maybe a little larger, but smaller than the size of a pea. That is enough. All right, as you see, I want to hold it up so you guys can see it. There it is, just a grain of rice-sized thermal paste. Now you'll want to take the CPU cooler. And in this case, this actually didn't come with the CPU. It's actually a much weaker cooler. This came with an AMD Ryzen 3 chip that I own. So in this case, you'll want the AMD logo, which is this little bit protruding from it, to face away from the RAM slots, which are here on the motherboard, so that it doesn't get in the way of the RAM when installing it. You want to line up the screw holes. All right, it's lined up. And now get out your screwdriver and start tightening it. So I like to do it in a crisscross pattern so that there's not too much pressure applied to one side of the board. Good, some metal shavings came off, which aren't good. So I just kind of blew that away. It's fully tightened. Now let's do this one. Also fully tightened. Now, hang on, can't really see it. This one. Fully tightened. And now this one. Just making sure. I'm going to go around it one more time just to give it, make sure, because this has to be all the way tightened so it'll work its best. Now, we can push this aside because we're done assembling the board. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot. I'll have to remind you about this. There's a cable coming off of it. There's a header. This is the fan header. Let me show you. Usually has 4 pins. Looks like this. All right. Hang on. Yeah, that's better lighting. You'll want to plug in that fan cable into this header. It says CPU fan above it. That's what you want to do. Now it will get power to spin the fan. Let's put this aside for now and let's open up the case. I'm going to put everything else aside for now. We'll need this and the case. Just like slide everything aside. I need to kind of fix up my setup. Have my mic here, got the stuff. I will put this PC case on its side and undo the screws. The thumb screws are on each side of it. All right, now we can see the inside of it. To start, here's what I like to do. So I don't damage the motherboard when we're installing it. I like to install the power supply first. But we're not going to do that yet because I don't want to forget about this. If you do, you're basically taking apart the whole computer again just to reinstall this. So it's kind of a standardized thing for all cases. You'll want to pop it here in the back, and also don't cut yourself on this. They're usually quite sharp. So be careful when installing this. All right. Fully installed, yes. That won't fall out. Right. Now for the power supply, I will unplug it from the wall. Okay. Now, for all these cords, I'm just gonna stick it down here for now. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll just put it in the DVD drive bays, which are up here, so it's not as messy. And maybe when I'm just dropping this in, I will have them out. That's why I like those modular power supplies where you can disconnect the cables when building it and remove the unnecessary ones. All right, let's look at our parts tray. I have a magnetic one so they don't fall out. Get these at Amazon or something. So I'll select these 4 ones. They have like a hex nut on top of them. There's 3, one more. Here it is. Let's get a close-up of it. There it is. It's got like a hex nut on top of it. Those are power supply screws. Sometimes fan screws, occasionally. Now, let's see, any more questions? I'll take a little bit of time to answer some. Oh, no questions. All right. Let me drop the camera for a second. I'll need you to see this. It's a standardized thing of all cases, nothing special, that there are 4 screws to mount a power supply. This is an ATX form factor power supply. There's other form factors, yet this is the most popular. One screw. Two screws. Just two left, right? Don't over tighten, or you might strip the screws, which you don't want to do. Or the thread inside the power supply, which is what the screws latch onto. All right, power supply mostly installed. There's actually one more thing, but I don't really want to show much of this because it's very rare to see on cases. It's actually, let's see, this bracket right here that goes in here to give, like, you know, just an extra layer of protection for the power supply. So it'll be quick. Give me a few seconds. Shoot. You can see how difficult it is, and that's why they got rid of it. At least most case manufacturers. It's over there, and you have to get around those wires and all that stuff. It just adds more complexity and difficulty to the build. Yeah, it's installed. One more. All right, that bracket's installed. Good. Hope that actually helps. So now to clear the motherboard tray area, we're gonna push all these cables into the drive bay, just to, you know, clear it out. And so push these here into what is the hard drive bay. Okay, now we have a clean area for the installation. You'll want to find in here 6 of these screws. They have flat heads, but they're also a Phillips head screw. See, they're quite flat on top, and they have a Phillips head. So that's what you're looking for. All right, hang on. I'm gonna find 6 of those, put them on the table. This is a micro ATX board, so it requires 6 of them. ATX boards usually require about 9, but it could be different depending on the manufacturer. But they're all like the same kind of screw. Now hold it by the CPU cooler so you don't touch the motherboard. Well, at least touch as little as possible. And lower it in. And line it up with the I/O shield that's on the back. All right, now time to install those 6 screws. Hang on, give me a second. Just had a drink. These don't hold as well. I guess I'll just have to drop them in each hole by hand and tighten it. Or you could just get a magnetic screwdriver, which will make your life a lot simpler. Hang on, is there a question? Can you compact all this stuff into a smaller box? Yes, you can. You can buy a smaller case, get a mini ITX board, which are the smallest kinds of boards that are on sale today, at least mainstream for custom PC building. And an SFX power supply. That's smaller than an ATX power supply. Yeah, there are a lot of great mini ITX builds. Yeah, it's much harder to build because, well, you gotta work in very, very small spaces. So yeah, if you want to go for a mini ITX build, go for it. They're quite good. I was thinking of building one earlier this year, but I wanted more expandability and upgradability. Only drawback with those mini ITX builds, they only have one PCIe slot, so you can only have one graphics card. ATX boards have like 3, sometimes even 4 PCIe slots. All right, this is a magnetic screwdriver. Oh, that's much better. Okay, that helps. Yeah, go to your hardware store and get a, uh-oh, that's not magnetic. Ah, shoot. Yeah, get a magnetic one. This one is, all right, that's better. Go to your hardware store and get a magnetic screwdriver. All right, 2 screws left. Hang on, this one got kind of stuck. All right, it's done. All right. Next step, installing the RAM. So I'll open up one of the slots here. If you have 2 of them, if you have 2 sticks of RAM, this actually is a 16 gig RAM stick. I would rather have 8 by 2. I mean 2 sticks of 8 gigs rather than this because well, you get to use a dual channel memory. At least that's what I think you can do. I believe this has dual channel, right? All right, now we are gonna install our Wi-Fi card. Oh, never mind. No. There's something important we forgot. Leave that there. Our front I/O. This is the most fun part, and by most fun I mean not the most fun part of building a computer. Yeah, these little things need to connect. It's different depending on your motherboard. You'll need to print out part of the manual, all that. I'll be right back. I'm getting a blueprint that I have for this. It's part of the manual, so yeah, I'll show you. Here it is. Right there, it says power LED, power switch, hard drive activity LED, reset switch. So I'll just need to link up these cables with those ports. I usually leave that there. Power switch. So power LED plus. So the LEDs actually have plus and minus, so you do have to mind that. And the switch doesn't matter. What polarity? Yeah, the polarity of the switch doesn't matter. Next, we have USB, which are basically, well, the USB ports on the front of your computer. This is a USB header. They're called USB headers. They basically convert an internal connection to an external one. So they're at the bottom of the case. It's different for most motherboards, a lot of motherboards. So just check the manual depending on the board you get. Last one, USB 3.0. This is what basically allows you to use USB 3, which is pretty fast. A fast connection. Connected. All right. Now we're going to install fans. That's one of the last items we have. Here's an 80 millimeter. That belongs on the back of this case. So now, in your parts tray, you'll want 4 of these. They have wide threads and usually a flat head, but with a Phillips head screwdriver, thing. You'll need 4 of them per fan, and we'll have 3 fans inside this computer, not including this and the power supply. I can put this away. Now, clear out trash from under my table. All right. Just 4 of them. All right, give it a quick wiggle to see if it's in place. Now I like to route the fan cable over. And now just let that hang out for a minute. We'll need it soon. Next fan is actually on the front of the computer. So grab that front panel and snap it off, depending on what your case is, what it does. Now we have this, the front fan at 120 millimeters. Now you want to hold that against the front and, well, once again, get 4 screws and tighten it in. Simple as that. Oh shit, hang on. All right, front fan mounted. One more, and where does that go, you think? Well, actually, it goes right here on the case. It goes right on the case. The side panel, at least. So, get those screws lined up. Although this is rare nowadays, this one does have it. Most computers don't have fans on the side of the case anymore. That's like a very old thing for computers. Especially some desktops from like the mid-2000s, they had it. Early 2000s, mid-2000s desktops had these on the side of the case. But it's very rare to see nowadays. Guess I just got a very old model case. Huh? All right, final thing. So the fan won't get caught inside the cable. So the fan cable don't get caught in nothing. We're gonna put a piece of tape, like right here. I know it's a piece of tape, yes, but we're gonna put it right here so it doesn't, the fan cable won't fall into like the CPU fan, which will then eat it up, sort of, like chop it up, and then, well, you'll have a dead fan. There it is, mounted. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. Next up, you'll want to remove these 2 screws. Oh, wait, that's still on the end of the screwdriver. And lift up this panel. I'll need some to drop this. All right, so I'll take one fan cable, plug it into this fan hub. That's what it's called. Take the other one that we dropped here earlier, plug it in to the next port. This has 8 ports on it, so that means you're gonna have 8 fans if you do have those. Our final one, the 3rd slot. Now we need to wire up this fan hub, but we'll do that last, after we connect up all the motherboard connections. Now, just pull out all of these cables. especially these two. This one is the 24-pin ATX cable. This one is an 8-pin CPU power cable. That gives power to the CPU. The other one gives power to the motherboard and accessories. Just let that bundle sit in the drive bay. Come on, we don't use DVDs anymore, do we? Now connect it to that header, which in this case it's right here, the biggest one on the board. Sorry, we can't see it. It is right by the RAM, right there, where my finger is. It's right next to the RAM slots. You want to firmly press down, but not too firm. Don't break the motherboard. Now this other cable, put the excess length inside the drive bay and plug it into there. It's usually above the CPU and right under your power supply and next to your rear fan. All right, that's ready. Next up, our fan hub. It needs power as well. Now take this, which is a SATA connection, SATA. All right, they are usually for powering hard drives, but in this case, it'll be used to power fans. Plug that into a SATA header on the power supply and tuck that away. Next, there's another cable that protrudes off of it, and this one's actually a regular fan cable, but there's no power running through, only data. Plug that into another fan header on the board, just like the ones that you plug your CPU cooler into. All right. Oh, hang on. All right. That kind of got caught. That's okay. Now you'll want to put those two screws back that you removed from this flap that lifts up. Replace those screws. All right. Now close up the side panel. Oh wait, how could I have forgotten our Wi-Fi card? All right, now this is also quite rare today. Actually, I haven't seen this before, where there are no PCIe screws for the PCIe slots. So yeah, remember to replace the screws if your case comes with them. This one doesn't. It's an odd case, I know. All right, it's mounted, just like that. Place it in this slot up here, first one, if you have no graphics card, because the graphics is integrated into the CPU. It's called integrated graphics. Now replace those screws that you removed while holding down this plate to keep everything in place. All right, Wi-Fi card installed. Now we can close up the side panel and the front panel. All right, now replace these two screws on the back of the case. All right, flip the antennas up so they get the best connection. Out. Now set the PC down and put your setup together, your computer setup. Oh, how could I have forgotten that? Sorry, I'm going to open it one more time. Although this is optional what I'm going to do. Although, yeah. This is an internal speaker where it will beep when it boots. So just to show that it has booted correctly, loaded the BIOS, posted, POST, power on self-test. There's a little speaker header right here. Plug it in, and you're good. Just let that little speaker sit there. All right, that's the last thing, I promise. All right, now I'm gonna bring out a monitor, keyboard, and mouse so we can install Windows, all right? You'll need this. There's my monitor. I'm going to plug it in to the HDMI port on the back of this computer we just built. Actually, the one I just built. All right. A few more things till it's ready. The power, of course. Keyboard. Put these screwdrivers aside, we won't need those anymore. Our mouse, in this case, we're just going to go with a wireless one. Plug in the receiver. I don't have any good wired ones. And of course, power to my monitor. This is all you need to boot a Windows computer. All right, it's booting. All right, the monitor is on. You'll want to plug this into a USB 3.0 port on the back of the PC. Well, if your drive is USB 3.0, you do that, but if it's not, don't. You can plug it anywhere, basically. But now, let's turn it on from the back, power on, and now let's press the button on the front. Hold up. All right, there we go. Now you want to continually press the delete key to get into the BIOS. Might sound repetitive, yes it is, but you need to do this to get into the BIOS. Give it a sec, it's its first boot, so keep doing this. It usually takes a little longer on the first boot. Oh, there it goes, you heard that beep, right? Okay, we are successfully in the BIOS. to turn on my mouse. Now you want to load optimize defaults? Yes. And then boot from the UEFI SanDisk partition 1, which is the USB drive we plugged in. You heard that beep again, right? It's working. Give it a second. It worked. All right, good. Where is it taking me now? Hope it's to that USB. Hold up, did not have Windows installed already. All right, let's shut it down and reinstall it. Hang on. Yeah, I forgot to mention I previously used this drive, this hard drive, on a Windows laptop a few months ago. All right, we're booting from the, there it is, Windows 10 setup, 64-bit. All right, choose that one. Okay, so here's Windows setup. Here's what it looks like. So there it is. English, select that. Time and currency, select English, United States, and hit US keyboard. Hit next and hit install now. Let me lower the camera so you guys can see this as well. Hang on, yeah, that is centered. All right, now it says activate Windows. If this is the first time you're installing Windows on this PC, or installing different edition, enter a valid Windows product key. If you don't have one, there's a little button down here that says I don't have a product key. Hit that if you do not have one yet, or if you don't plan to use one. Okay? If you do, enter it. So I will select Windows 10 Pro. It has the most features. Hit next. And hit I accept. Hit next. Hit install Windows only. Delete all the partitions that are already on the hard drive because we're reinstalling it, a clean install. Nice. I kind of don't want to delete this. All right, I have to though. Because we're installing Windows. Now hit new, max that out. It's already maxed out. Hit apply, hit OK. And now create these partitions. And then leave it there, hit next. And now it's going to do its job of installing Windows on your brand new PC. All right, so I just got to sit back, have a drink, and watch it. Or you can do anything else you want while it's installing. Oh yeah, after you install Windows, I would want to go back into the BIOS and change the fan settings. They're quite loud now, as you can hear that, I hope. But yeah, the PC is quite loud. I want to put it on its silent setting. It's almost ready. Well, during this time, I guess you guys can type your questions. I will sit in front of the other screen, which is my MacBook, which I'm streaming from, and answer your questions. So, hang on. Oh, someone asked a question. Hold up. Hey, it's nice to see some familiar people. Thanks for joining. All right, let's see. Latest question. So, does it look like a normal Windows computer, like you got a Windows laptop or something? Yes, it does, actually. I'd like to clarify on that. Notice how a lot of manufacturers install software you may not need or want, yet it comes with it. This one is a clean install straight from Microsoft, okay? So it's just Windows, all you need, all right? That's all you need. Just like other manufacturers, not going to name anyone, they install things like, I don't know, some features they have only, or yeah, just stuff we might not need, okay? Yeah, so it's basically a clean install. No, I shouldn't call it malware or spam or what. You might call it spam or just like unnecessary software that will slow your PC down and stuff like that. This one will allow it to run at how Microsoft should have your computer run. Like if you, without all the extra stuff you may not need, just like that. It's getting ready, almost there. Oh yeah, one day on this channel, hopefully, if all of my plans are working good and all goes well, you guys might actually see me build a 64 core, 128 thread. So that's already very powerful. Dual RTX Titan computer with 256 gigs of RAM. And it's going to be the coolest thing I ever built so far. So hopefully, if plans go well and everything goes to plan, you know, everything works, you'll see that video up soon, at least, maybe within 2 months, okay? Maybe earlier, who knows? But probably within that time frame. So remember to hit that subscribe button, all right? Thank you. Okay, so it is done installing. It is thinking right now. Its first boot is always the slowest boot. Okay, this is what you see when you buy a computer. This is what you will see. All right. So yes, we're in the United States. Next. We have a US keyboard. Yes. All right. No second keyboard. We only have one keyboard layout for now. Let's connect to a network. Oh, it doesn't support 5G. All right. Well, here's the studio's Wi-Fi. Connected. Let's go. Next. We have some important setup. That's cool. There's something on the keyboard. Okay, so it's updating. It's going to do a little bit of updating. Give it some time. If you put in your network, oh wait, here it is. Set for personal use. You want to hit that. Offline account. Yes, I don't want to put in my email addresses online. Let's just call this. Yep, Morris. You can customize that if you need to. No, I don't want to share it with other computers on my network, or at least my account. Yes, fine. All right. So now it's going to restart again. And basically, well, not really restart, but it's going to have a kind of a blank period for a while it sets up Windows for you. and gets everything ready. So give me a sec, I'll be right back. Is it ready? Almost done? Okay, we have Windows installed. Now, here's something important you should do after installing it, like a clean install. Update it, all right? You want the latest stuff so it doesn't have to bother, so the computer doesn't bother you while you're working on your brand new computer. So here's what I'll do. Just go to Settings, Update and Security, and hit check for updates, and there will be a lot of updates. So, yeah. Oh, yep, a lot of updates. Okay, they're installing quite quickly. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of testing on this computer and another computer I own. I'll list the specs of the other computer like right now. I'll tell you about it. So it has a Ryzen 9 3950X. It's already a very powerful processor. Has a RTX 2080 Ti, no, just a 2080 Super graphics card that is still a very powerful card. And it has 64 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte M.2 SSD. PCIe Gen 4. So it's very fast. So we are going to benchmark, okay? That means give it a score on both computers. This one, I know it's kind of a very weird comparison, just to show the difference between of how computers can be more powerful or less powerful, just to show what you would need. I don't know, it's kind of pointless of a test, but I just want to show it. Also, you should do that for your own Windows computer if you have one. Now, we're going to be running two tests, User Benchmark and Cinebench. So we're going to install those and, you know, just give it a quick test to see how this stacks up against other computers, how it compares. All right, so we're going to just wait for it to update. This is your time to ask questions, so if you have any questions, ask me now in the chat. All right, come on. This is always the thing. Oh yeah, look, Windows 10 version 2004. That's their newest one, apparently. Pending restart, download error, and yeah. I want to wait for that one to do the install because that's one of the biggest updates we have now. One of the biggest updates on this page, at least. Guess they want me to restart it now, so fine. We'll continue those updates later. Oh yeah, if you don't want it to beep like that, you don't have to install that speaker, it's optional. But it just gives me a better sense of safety. All All right, back to the settings, update. So we're going to retry these updates before we do any testing. Okay, now it's working on update Windows 10 version 2004. All right, so we're going to restart one more time and let this update when that's ready. Come on. It's installed 100%, so why isn't it done? That's what I always... Oh, what happened? It's now back to 17%. All right, this might take a while. So ask your questions if you got any. All right, does this build support dual monitors? No, it doesn't. It supports triple monitors. As you see, there are 3 ports on the back of this. Hang on, I didn't show you that actually. But you'll have to believe me. There are 3 ports. One of them is HDMI. The other one is DVI, and the last one's VGA. So that means, yes, you can connect 3 monitors to this computer, even though the graphics card is, should I say, below average. And I have tried with this motherboard 3 monitors, and it does work. I've had good experience with Gigabyte motherboards. They've always been reliable. Yeah, they've always been the most reliable motherboards to me. So if I have a choice, I'll always go with Gigabyte when I build systems. I don't know, it's just personal preference. And I'd just like to share my recommendation with you guys. Almost there, 75%, 3/4 of the way done. I don't know, this is a bit off topic, but I'd like to talk about it while it's installing. The MacBook setup I'm using looks a bit crazy. There's a lot of adapters and dongles that I have to connect in order to make this all work because, well, Apple ditched USB-A. So now I only see USB Type-C. Now I need lots of, a lot more stuff connected to make it work. Oh, wait, more questions? Hang on. Oh, how much does it cost to build this one? Around $300, $350, depending on the prices. Although this AMD Athlon 240GE processor, forgot to name it, they don't really sell it anymore. So they've replaced it with a 3000G, which is their new one, the new version of this. So yeah, on today's prices, it would be around $300, $350. Oh, 81, 82%. Oh, okay, now we can restart. Let's go. So I left for a second to run Cinebench on my other computer so I can get a score and report that to you when I get back. Let's see if it's done. Okay, it looks like it's almost ready. Now I don't want to report my Cinebench score yet until we do this, all right? Almost, well, not almost, 30% is not almost done. Oh, okay, that's quick. There's stuff in the trash, huh? Oh, okay. Now, one more thing I'd like to do. Remove all the junk files. I don't know if you knew about this yet, but after you update and stuff, there could be a lot of junk. Oh, not much, actually. About half a gigabyte. All right. Now, in the Microsoft Store, I'll want to install Cinebench. Oh. Hang on. I'll be right back, don't worry. All right, they did ask me to sign in, so I guess whatever. And there may also be app updates. Let it do all its work. So I guess if you want faster Wi-Fi, I'd recommend a faster card if your network supports it. This one's actually like not too expensive of a card. It's like $16. It works good, but it's not the fastest. All right, I guess we'll update later. All right, Cinebench, let's go. Accept. All right, now let's run it. It might take a while. It's going to run the same test that I did on my other computer. So while it does that, I'm going to run a user benchmark test on my other computer. Okay, it's still going. Don't worry. This may take a bit of time. As you can see, there are actually 4 blocks. Those actually show how many cores are working at the moment. C-O-R-E-S. Okay, not cores, threads. All right, there are 4 threads in this CPU, and each thread is rendering one of these blocks on this graph, I should call it, this picture. The most number of those gold-colored squares you'll see are the number of cores that are working. Anyone got questions? Oh, wait, there are. Where would you plug in the VGA cable? Do you mean VGA? If you do, it's just on the back of the computer. It's on this motherboard more specifically, it's above the HDMI cable to the right. So it's just like all the ports are on the back of the computer. Oh, I know. Okay. The cable you plug in for the fans. Okay, that's not actually it. VDG is actually for lighting inside a computer. It's not for a fan. A fan cable is also known well as a 4-pin fan header or 3-pin, depending on what kind of fan you have. VDG apparently is a RGB header. So there are no RGB headers on this motherboard. It's not a gaming style motherboard where they like to cover their entire PC in lights. No, it's not that kind of motherboard. It's a work professional style motherboard. The cable that you plug in for the fans. No, there are no LEDs on the fans inside here because there are no ports that support it. So I'm sorry about that, but you'll need to find another motherboard. Possibly. I'd actually, if you want a RGB or header, it's called an RGB header or VDG if that's it. I'd upgrade to like something like a Gigabyte B450M DS3H. It has a 4-pin RGB header, but there's an even better one called the Gigabyte Aorus, something like that, X570 Elite. That one has a 3-pin RGB header, but it's much more expensive than this. And it's not really meant for a CPU like this one. It's meant for something more powerful. Because of the 70 chipset has more potential. Hang on. What other kinds of motherboards are there? Okay. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to motherboards. You can have different form factors, different sockets. That's where you plug in the CPU. Different chipsets. Let's just name a few for you. Let's go with form factor. This one in this computer we just built is a micro ATX board. So it's not the smallest. The smallest would have to go to mini ITX. That is much, much smaller and will fit into very small builds. You could also step up to an ATX, which is bigger than a micro ATX, but not as big as an eATX, which stands for extended ATX. That's one of the bigger kinds. And you also have XL ATX. Those are the biggest kinds of boards you have that are actually on sale today. And if you want to talk about sockets. You have AMD sockets, Intel sockets. Let me name a few. LGA 1151, LGA 2066, AMD AM3, AM4, STRX4. Those are some examples of them. Thanks for the question. Okay, here's where it's scored. This is the, do you see that orange colored line? 866. So this computer scored 866. That is a very low score. It can be compared to a 5th generation Intel Core i5 CPU or a 3rd generation Intel Core i5 CPU. 3rd generation, that is in 2013. So it has a similar power to that, I guess. But that has 4 cores. But this also has 4 threads. So that's similar to 4 cores without hyperthreading, which means it splits 1 core into 2 threads. All right, so I'm going to tell you the Cinebench score for my other computer, which is my daily driver computer. I use it every day. Here it is. It scored 8,829. I took a picture of it. 8,829. That is much higher than this one. So I would go with a computer that scored, if you want to play games at decent settings or maybe even high settings or extreme ultra settings, I'd go with a computer that scores over 3,000 or between 2,000 and 3,000 for like good settings for most games. When I play some video game, even my computer, the one that scored 8,000, lags. It kind of lags when I max out the settings. That means like the graphics quality and stuff. Now we are going to test. Hang on, that's MSN. Oh, it's back there. All right, whatever. Let's go to user benchmark. Sorry, one more benchmark test, okay? Hang on, more questions. Okay, that's a very good question, and I would like to answer that one. Why is a computer fast and then becomes slow as you use it? There could be more than one cause of this. It could be cluttered files, too many programs running that you have in the background. You could even have, just mainly lots of programs running or lots of dust inside the system that will clog up the heatsink and make the CPU throttle, which means limit its own speed so it doesn't overheat. So to make it faster again, here's what I try. This kind of extreme route where you would completely reset the computer. That means do a clean install of Windows like I did on this one. A less extreme route is clean up your files, go to settings, go to empty temporary files, delete files you don't need, possibly even open up the case and vacuum it out. Use a vacuum cleaner or compressed air and clean it out. So that's my recommendation on trying to make it faster. If that doesn't work, I try a reset. But maybe that's just your computer's maximum speed. It depends on your computer, let's just say. Okay, it's performing a rendering test. Well, at least a graphics test. It's thinking this is a game. Oh yeah, forgot to say, the graphics card is a Vega 3, a Radeon Vega 3. It's integrated into the CPU, so it's cooled by the same heatsink, shares the RAM. Yeah. So it's now testing the hard drive. As you see, sustained write and read. Okay. All right, now we're going to get our results. Nice. All right. So for gaming, let's look at this chart. So you have different rankings: tree trunk, surfboard, raft, sailboat, jet ski, speedboat, yacht, gunboat, destroyer, battlecruiser, battleship, aircraft carrier, nuclear submarine, and UFO. So those are different rankings that, hang on, there's a question. Great, thank you. Okay. Thanks for watching. All right. But anyway, we're back here, and here's the rankings they get. UFO is the best. That's what you want. Tree trunk is the worst. It's what you don't want. So we are going to put this on this side of the window and this here. It's a tree trunk in gaming. So it's not going to do much gaming. Not that well, okay? Desktop is a battle cruiser. So it's a pretty good desktop, okay? You can use it for everyday tasks such as word processing, internet browsing, possibly casual gaming. At least doesn't score 0 in gaming. And as a workstation, that means like professional tasks like editing videos, photos, stuff like that. It's not that great, but it does okay. Let's see, performance, processor. They're all about average. Yeah, I'll just have to say its performance is average, not the best. Now, I've done a test on my desktop right here. It scored 126% in gaming. It scored 161% in being a desktop. And it scored 171% in being a workstation. So I guess it is really good at workstation tasks. So yeah, that is the results for... Oh, hang on, there's a question. Wait, how much did what cost? This computer or the other computer that I was testing? So I already said this computer here that we're looking at cost about $350 just for the desktop, and plus the monitor about $420 something. Yeah, the monitor was... Yeah, you can get this for about $100. The desktop's $350, so I'll just say about $450. Let's just say that. Yep. So the whole setup, including the monitor, $450. All right. So it is done testing. I showed you it works. Yep. Close all tabs. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this class. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button so you can show some support for my channel. And please do subscribe so you can see more future videos similar to this. And also so that, well, I'm going to be uploading more videos and probably more PC builds in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time. Oh, wait, hang on. The other computer. Okay, one more question I'll answer. How much was the other computer? The computer itself was $2,000 with all the parts in it, okay? And the monitor setup and keyboard, that came to around $500. So about $2,500 for the entire setup. I'll remind you, the other setup is a triple monitor setup with a full-size gaming keyboard and mouse. You are awesome. Thank you for the informative instructions. Thank you for watching, all right? And hope you all have a great day. See you next time.